Hi everyone, welcome to the stream. I'm Kel McDonald. I make comics you can read at kelmcdonald.com.
And I'm Elena Pete, and I make comics you can read at elenapete.com or at weargeek.com. But that's not all. We got somebody
Oh,
new
I'm
joining us
okay.
this week.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Joe Pimienta. I also make comics, and you can see some of them on my website, josepimienta.com, or at least some sample pages of stuff. And yeah, thanks for letting me crash this streaming session. Long story
Sure.
short, I'm here
You
today.
keep being busy on Wednesdays.
Well, I mean, I keep being busy in the evenings. So yeah, I mean,
That's how
like,
it
it's
but
goes.
just it's what?
but you're doing good stuff with
I'm trying. We're
union
trying.
things.
Yeah. Yeah, we're
Heck yeah,
trying.
unions. We're very union,
Yeah. I'm sorry,
pro-union on
what?
this show.
Everyone on this show is pro-union.
Yeah.
Hooray! Yay for unions. Yes,
Writing
we
a
need a
wolf
lot more of them.
looking up is very fun. Joe, I do a thing at the start of every stream where I draw our personas in a cute little image. And now we're
Awesome.
just looking up
Uh,
at this squirrel who's hanging out.
and I sent Alina that little squirrel drawing I did of
It's
you
very cute.
to go with my wolf.
Nice. Yeah, no, like yeah,
Um,
that go ahead.
anyway, before we went live, we were talking about Chainsaw Man.
Yes, I was being brought
Um,
up to date because I know little to nothing about neither the anime nor the manga. So
The manga has some good comics. Like, the guy who makes the manga is really good at paneling. Um, so in the second arc, Denji goes on a date with a girl to the aquarium.
hmm
Maybe the cutest
And
penguin.
while they're on a date, it keeps returning to this shot that is Denji and her, their backs toward the reader, and um she's info dumping fish facts on him.
Very good.
Okay,
And
that sounds
every
great.
time they return to this shot, um her um info dump balloon gets bigger.
Okay.
So her info dump balloon is literally driving them apart as
Mm.
they're on this bad date. Um
That's
so
interesting. So
that's why I'm
basically,
like, this is good comics.
yeah, because like, it's because she's talking about things that he's not interested in.
Yes, it keeps him saying, "Can we go see the penguins?" And she says, "No, we have to look at the starfish for 5 more minutes."
And
Oh,
it's
And,
we're not done
like,
talking about it yet.
yeah, and then, like, the next thing, it's like, "No, we have to look at the jellyfish, like, according to our schedule, we have to look at the jellyfish for
oh,
this much
geez,
more
schedules
time."
on a date. That's
Yeah.
oof,
Um,
oof.
and so
Benji
what's
is also just like
also
just
That that
a
that's
very simple
that's the
boy.
red flag right there.
He
well,
likes
so
food and
here's
he
the
likes wrestling.
other
That's it.
here's the other fun thing is, so they keep doing that, and then the peak of the date is, um it cuts to her inner monologue as she looks at Denji, and she's like, "No one knows as many interesting fish facts as I do. He must be falling for me."
Oh, okay. Oof.
Um, to which he then says, "I'm really bored. Can we go to see the penguins?" And she says, "How about you shut the hell up?"
Nice.
Um,
That's all right.
and
Yeah, that's
and
that's the
then
kind of
this is a joke that they cannot properly translate into English. Um, but because Denji is homeless, he has not been to school, so he does not know how to read kanji.
okay.
Um, so then you get a panel of both of them saying to each other, "Go to hell, go to hell, go to hell." And her "go to hell" is in kanji, and his "go to hell" is in hiragana.
Sweet. Okay.
Because
Like
he can't read.
kindergartner scribbles, basically.
Yeah.
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 Um, So yeah, like I said, the guy who makes Chainsaw Man just good comics in general.
Right on.
Good use of the medium.
Yeah. That's that's you don't get to see that a whole lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Also, Alina, I read that short story that I told you I was wondering if it was going to be
Oh yeah.
about the monster that they shouldn't name.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Was it?
Um, all the buildup is to trick you into thinking that's there is gonna happen.
Gotcha.
So
What are
all
you
the
talking about?
descriptions of the creature, you're not supposed to say a Native American uh evil spirit that
You can call it the
ends up
hungry
in pop
one
culture.
or the
Yeah,
cold
you call it the
one, and
cold
kind of
one, the
refer
hungry
to it
one, but
indirectly.
you should not refer to it by name, but
But everyone
regardless of
does.
that, lots of horror movies say it
Especially,
anyway,
yeah.
and
Oh.
so do TV shows.
Oh. Oh, okay.
Anyway, the river guy who writes Rivers of London wrote a short story that takes place in America, but in the same sort of universe.
Mm-hmm.
And it was called like Winter something.
And you're like, uh-oh,
And the back
uh-oh.
of the book says it's about Native American culture. And I
Mm.
was like,
I was like, oh no, oh
it's
no,
yeah, I was like,
I know where this is going.
Playing
I
with
was like,
fire.
usually
Okay.
he's
Playing with
better
fire.
about this. So like it's pretty disappointing if he did make this mistake. Um but that it was all a trick to make you think he was going to do that.
Ah,
Because
he
all the
didn't do it.
ways that the creature is described is
Did I lose you there? What happened?
yeah.
Did I disconnect?
No, I can still hear you. I think that
Did
might be on Kel's end,
Okay. Wow. What a moment to lose them.
right?
Um. Um. Let me
Right,
type some.
right at the
Yeah.
climax of the story. There, I've got.
Hey.
Save this picture. I drew a really
Hey.
cute little scroll dude.
I think we lost you there.
We got some sonas going on here. Now
Can
I'm gonna go to
you
Actually Inks
hear?
Comics. Can you hear me, Joe?
I can hear you. I can hear you
Okay,
solid.
gotcha.
But
I
uh,
think
but I can't hear Kel, so now I'm wondering
Kel
if they can
cut
hear
out.
us.
I think they just posted something.
Oh, okay.
Hi.
Oh no, there
There
we go.
you are.
Kel's back.
Oh,
My internet did that thing where I could still hear you, but it wasn't
Oh,
letting me talk.
oh, that's
damn
fun.
you,
Um
internet.
Love that.
which
Uh,
means I had to restart my router. So right now
oh,
my stream is off, but I'm calling you from my phone.
okay.
Uh, while my
Oh,
router restarts. Anyway, the short story keeps describing the creature the way it has popped up in pop culture recently,
okay.
like on Hannibal and
As like
other
a weird deer.
yes,
That seems
a
to, it's so
weird
weird because
monster
that's not
deer.
at all what the actual legend is about. I don't know who decided it was a deer.
I
Uh,
think it must have been Hannibal because I can't think of anything predating it.
yeah. I also know that it overlaps with some Appalachian creature, which I also won't name. I
Yeah.
don't know if there's any specific taboo about that, but I'm just not gonna
Yeah,
get
yeah,
into
yeah.
it.
I mean, we don't. I
Anyway,
think we kind of get the idea.
yeah,
Yeah.
all the descriptions are to make you think of how pop culture has been portraying it recently.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Um, and then it turns out
Oh,
Then it turns out, yeah. Then it
and
turns out what?
we lost Kelly.
No.
Nobody wants us to talk about this.
Yeah, like it's I think I think I'm gonna see this as a sign of
The
like
internet's
I think
against us.
yeah, well, either that or like maybe the internet is doing some kind of justice here of like yeah,
Yeah.
maybe maybe let's not talk about Creatures we shouldn't be talking about.
I mean, it's spooky season. It's spooky
That's
season
true.
right
So like,
now.
it's something's up in the air for sure.
Today for me is
Can
all
you
about.
hear me now?
Yes, we
Now we
can.
can hear you.
All right. My phone was trying to connect to the same shitty Wi-Fi that's
Oh,
restarting right now.
right.
So,
It was like I can't
uh,
find the internet.
anyway, so, it turns out that instead of being the thing that shouldn't be described,
Hmm.
Uh-huh.
it is actually the ghost of white settlers
Hmm.
who froze to death and starved because they wouldn't accept help from the indigenous locals.
How very
Mhm.
Donner Party.
And their toxic, shitty attitudes infected like the landscape where they died.
Mm.
Um, and that they had been sealed up until a someone moved the thing that had sealed them up.
Mm,
Um,
yep,
and now that's why they're attacking now.
that's good. That's a nice twist. That is actually a twist I pulled in a short story. I just is coming out this month actually, just in time for Halloween. There
Oh,
is
cool.
a
Congrats.
local publisher who did a short story anthology of like specifically BC, like Vancouver coast kind of
Mhm.
ghost stories. And so the
Hmm.
one I picked was the story of Dead Man's Island, just outside of Stanley Park here in Vancouver. And it was they were like lost in a forest, and they found up themselves in this like spirit side of Dead Man's Island, and they were like, "Oh, this is a problem." And it turns out the problem was that the ghost was haunted by the land developer who like cheated and stole the land away from the BC government, who in turn had stolen it from the natives. Um, and he was cursed to wander there forever, and he was just like poisoning the island slowly with his bad vibes.
So like this one was not as well executed as yours sounds like, because the thing is
Mm,
that the author thinks he's so clever for pulling this twist on
right.
you
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that like the audiobook was 6 hours long and you don't find out the twist until the last hour.
Oh no.
Mm.
And it was like
Yeah, I only had 5,000 words, so it was real snappy.
so, so yeah, so it just kind of was like I would have liked more of the story to have them deal with the actual problem.
Yeah.
And I don't know if this guy was like patting himself on the back to prove that he was clever for not doing a racism,
That was
but
the thing. I
like
was really worried
that's
because you were like, it's a British author writing this story about North
yeah.
America and Native mythology, and I was like, oh no, oh that's so many red
And
flags for me.
yeah, and there were other things that also made the book not great, which is mostly his American main character was just annoying.
Mm, that's a problem.
The audiobook reader might have been more of the problem making them annoying rather
Mm,
than
the actual
the
way the
writing
character was
itself.
written. Yeah.
'Cause they had a British actress read the audiobook but affect
Oh,
an American accent the entire time.
cool. Yeah.
So that really limited her range on what she could
Yeah.
do. Um, which part of the reason why the main series audiobooks are a lot of fun is because the guy reading them is extremely good at accents.
Right.
Um,
Right, you were saying that because like the characters all kind of have their own voice, but also their own
yeah.
regional accents.
Yeah, and to the point where he's so good at them that the author was trying to stump the audiobook reader by, like, picking more and more obscure niche sections of, like, England for
Yeah.
him to mimic.
Mm.
I
Um,
wonder if he did a good Brummy. I love a Brummy accent.
so yeah, so well, it's good he didn't do a racism, the rest of the book was just kinda eh.
At least he didn't do a
Um,
racism.
Yeah.
Points
yeah.
for not doing a
That's better
racism.
than most. It's
Yep.
that's That is
But I
It's
don't know
better
how I
than
feel about,
good
like,
old
I'm
Jim
gonna
Blitzer.
I don't know how I feel about I'm going to trick you into thinking I did a racism for
right.
And then I'm not gonna do the
5
racism.
and then 5/6 of the book. So
I
Hey, I didn't do the
mean,
racism.
look, some people have different strikes. Clearly, for this one is advertising.
Yeah.
So it's uh it's just being like, oh, what do you think it's gonna be about? Haha,
Uh-huh, uh-huh,
I
uh-huh.
got your dollars.
Yeah, you like that scary kind of deer thing? You like it? You like it? Aha, it wasn't that.
I mean,
Yeah,
it was a scary deer thing, it was just acknowledging that the scary deer thing is not what
It's not
pop
the thing.
culture tells you it is.
Yeah, exactly.
right.
Because it's not. The actual legend is just like a person who has been so driven mad by their hunger that they've chewed off their lips, which is terrifying in other ways.
I mean, it's how hungry have you gotten? Anyways,
Uh, anyway, did either of you watch or see or read anything fun lately?
oh, I've been watching a ton of stuff. Speaking of which, kind of similar on topic. I'm halfway through the most recent season of Reservation Dogs.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
So good.
hell yes.
It's
Let's
Alina
talk Reg
Alina is not
Dogs.
caught up, so we've
No,
been
okay.
holding off
I'm
on
I'm
talking
Yeah,
about it.
great.
most
Yeah,
of the
no,
way through
I.
the season. I think I'm at episode 6 or episode
Oh,
7 now.
okay.
Yeah,
You're further than I am. I just
cool.
no, no. Actually, like,
Yeah,
wait.
we'll talk.
Which one is episode 6? Can you?
Let me see if I can remember the last one I saw.
Yeah.
So I did the one of the ones I've definitely seen is the cop does a drug trip,
So that's
Okay.
season 2.
or
Joe's
that's season
talking
2.
about
Oh, season
season
1,
3.
season 3. Okay, I'm not into season 3 at all. I'm still
Oh,
in
in
season
Yeah.
2.
that
That
case, never. You know what? You're in for a ride. Great.
I know, I've
Yeah,
heard.
yeah.
So part of the
Yeah.
reason it's taken me so long is because I had a friend warn me. They're like, okay, late in the season for season 2, there was an episode that will absolutely fucking destroy you. And I'm like, thank you for the warning. I do not have the spoons to watch that right now. I don't have time to be
I
emotionally wrecked for several days.
I think I may know what episode they're talking about.
You probably.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm
this is all
sure.
guesswork, but like it's yeah.
Yeah.
Did they say which character is in this episode or anything like that?
No, but they said it had a lot to do with residential schools, so I was like, cool, right? Gonna save that for
Yeah.
after Indigenous
Okay.
Peoples
Yeah.
Day,
Yeah.
and Orange
Yeah.
Shirt
Or,
Day, and
yeah.
all of that.
Okay. Yeah. That's yeah. I know exactly the episode they're talking
Yeah,
about.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Brace
I
your.
was like,
Mhm.
cool.
Yeah. In that case, content warning. Brace yourself. It's pretty intense. Like
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
it's pretty intense. Uh,
yep.
this is a weird way of saying it, but it's a very good episode.
Yeah, I'd
Um,
also heard that.
yeah. So like it's very good. Like it's an
It's
amazing
I've
story,
heard,
but like
and I really
yes,
want to. I do
definitely.
want to watch it eventually because I've heard like it's very important and it's a good
Yeah.
thing that it's being shown to non-native people. But like,
Sure.
Mhm.
act like I know how bad it can get. I know
Right.
how bad it can get. I'm like, I don't need to engage with that right now.
Right. Right.
Uh,
Well, the magic of Hulu is that you can pause at any time. So,
Right? The
uh,
last time there was a big emotional episode, my partner went out and got neck bones, and we did neck bones and bannock,
oh, nice. Oh, that's good.
and then I did cry a lot.
uh,
It was good.
Joe, without spoiling anything,
Uh-huh.
last episode I watched was the one in the 70s.
Yeah, that's I just watched the one that comes after that one.
Okay.
So I'm an episode ahead of you. Yeah, that episode is also very good, the one that you're talking about.
Mhm.
It's very good. It's very sweet, just but yeah. Yeah, no, it's
Uh,
a great show. Great show.
I'm so well acted. Like,
they
oh my god.
there's so the episode in the 70s, Alina, is
Yep.
Brownie and all the older
Oh hell
characters when
yes.
they're teens, and they did a
Good.
great job of finding teen actors
Yeah,
that
that's
could like plausibly be those actors when younger.
yeah, the cast the,
Amazing.
the casting is off the hook on that one for
Yeah,
Amazing.
sure.
So one of my
yeah.
favorite things about like even in season 1, the first time they introduced Brownie, I was like, oh my god, because he has literally played the like wise old indigenous guy in everything. If you want like a, oh, this guy looks so spiritual, it's probably him. It's either him or Graham Greene. And so to see
Mhm.
him there as like the shitbag pot uncle was so fucking funny.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
It was so good.
Yeah. No. It's
Yeah.
yeah. No. It's such a good show. It's also like I have mixed feelings about it about the entire show only being 3 seasons because
Yeah.
on the one side it's like I appreciate that because I do kind of feel that, 3 seasons is like a really good, well self-contained. It's
Yep.
a really good way of putting off, like, yeah, you can always just rewatch it, or tell someone, and they don't have to go through like an entire, oh, yeah, they don't have to invest 1 million hours or anything like that.
Hmm.
But at the same time, it's also like, man, it's just 3 seasons. Like, I could watch another 3 seasons.
Oh yeah.
It's
I think
but
they saw
yeah,
what happened with Rutherford Falls getting like just yanked off the air unceremoniously, and they were like, "We don't want that for our story. Let's
right,
give them all a
yeah,
good send off and like
yeah.
just make sure it's still as high quality as the first couple seasons were." Because boy, that's it's some of the best television out there.
Word, yeah. By the way, Kel, where are you with Atlanta?
I finished it.
Oh, nice.
Um,
All four
I
seasons?
I'm all yeah, I watched all of it. I really liked the Goofy movie episode.
Yeah, that is an
You were telling
excellent
me about that one
episode.
last time.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, Alina, have you seen Atlanta, or
I
is
have
that
not, but it's on my
uh,
to watch list now on Kel's recommendation because I'm like, yes,
yeah,
that sounds great. I do want to watch this.
yeah, it's I definitely put it out there with I definitely put it up there with one of my favorite TV shows of all time.
Nice.
Just it's just that good. Like I don't even know how to
The
talk about it without, getting way too
the
into it.
third season made me realize that I really appreciate it when actors are up for doing goofy versions of themselves or making fun
Mm-hmm.
of themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
The
I
best.
told Alina about Alexander Skarsgård's cameo in season
Oh
or
yeah,
guest
yeah.
appearance in season 3. Alina, I forget if I told you about Liam Nielsen's
Yeah.
Oh
cameo
no.
in season
Yeah.
3.
Oh, awesome.
Um, I don't know if you know this, Alina, but he got in trouble for saying racist shit a few years ago.
I think so. Yeah, I think I heard something about that.
Um, so his cameo on Atlanta is Donald Glover's character, his cousin is a rapper, and so as he's getting more famous, he ends up in a bar, and Liam Nielsen's in the bar. And Liam Nielsen like talks about why he said like those things, and he was explaining like that he had that moment because like it was eye-opening to him because he fell for like basically white supremacy or whatever, a thing that he
Yeah,
thought
yeah,
he
yeah.
was immune to because he was a liberal, blah blah blah.
Right. He's like,
Um
I was not
and
immune.
and then Paperboy, the rapper character is like, well, I'm glad you could reflect, and also I just want you to know like I still love Taken.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's like, and it's good to know that you don't hate black people. And then Liam Nielsen says, "Oh no, I can't stand a lot of you." And he's like, "But didn't you learn anything about like Liam Nielsen says, I still can't stand a lot of you, but now it's not for that. It's because you tried to ruin my career. Didn't work, but I still hate you for it." And Paperboy's just like, "Didn't you learn anything
Paperboy.
about not making like racial statements like that?"
Yeah.
And Liam Nielsen like puts his hands on Paperboy's shoulder as he's leaving, and he goes, "That's the best and worst thing about being white. You don't have to learn."
Oh, so good.
Yeah, that's
Hats off to whatever writer was involved with that, because
oh, yeah.
beautiful
Apparently, Donald Glover had to pull a lot of strings
to get that
to
happening.
get Liam Nielsen to agree to do that.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Yeah, no, it's, That's one of the things that I love so much about that show is just like it's not just the end result, but it's also very clear of just how great of a showrunner Donald Glover is. And
Hmm.
just like you know, because I even remember like there was an interview like even, all the way back when the first season came out of just like how blasting out of the gates he was of just being like, I don't care if they cancel us. We're gonna do the show that we want. We're gonna do the show with this statement. We're gonna do the show that it's about this.
That's
And I
so
don't care if
ballsy.
it lasts one season. I don't care if they cancel us halfway through. This is our only chance to do this. And then it
Yeah.
just kept working. So it was like, great.
I
Nice.
Uh,
I also think it's really funny because I remember around the time he said that, he also said TV is boring because people are afraid of getting canceled, and, like,
Yes.
mm,
a
Yep.
million articles popped up about Donald Glover, like, being against cancel culture or whatever, and he
Oh
clarified
no.
with, like, "No, literally, your
Like
show gets
literally.
canceled."
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
um,
yeah, I said like
like,
they
it's not
pull
about cancel culture, it's about literally the network
We're
cancels your
canceling your
show.
show. Uh-huh.
yeah, like they pull it from the air kind of a thing. Yeah.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah,
uh
no, it's so good. But yeah, no, I'm glad you. Uh, well, without getting too many spoilers in there, what you think of the what did you think of the show overall?
I liked it. Mixed feelings about the end.
Okay, that's
It's just because like I feel like I really liked the episodes right before it a lot, so
mm-hmm.
it kind of felt like the crescendo had already happened.
Mm,
So it's not that the end was bad, it was just like because it's like the Goofy Movie episode, the camping episode, and then Paperboy on his farm. Like all those episodes are really, really good.
right.
And then while the last episode was good, it wasn't like as good as the others.
I can see that. My only comment for that would just be that like, gosh, Alina, how do you feel about spoilers?
Oh, go for it.
Okay, so like, so the reason why I see what you're saying, couple. Like, the reason why I'm kind of so into it is because of yeah, like every other episode, like you know the farm, the camping, and the Goofy movie episode, they are excellent send-offs to the other characters. But the
Mhm.
finale is also is about as much of a send-off that they can do to
Darius.
The Darius character, and I think that I told you this, like, you know, when I first saw
Yeah.
it, and like, where it's just like, it's such a statement of what it is to be living, you know, be living in that kind of universe, where it's
Mhm.
like, if it's, you know, because it is supposed to be ambiguous, but like, even in its ambiguity, every solution or every next turn of events is detrimental and condemning, and you know, and I think that that kind of fits with the thesis of the show
Mhm.
of what is it to be living, you know, what is it to be living in a marginalizing system. Um, but yeah, it's just like it just felt
And I
great.
think because it kept cutting to the other characters at the restaurant, I felt it undercut his send off a little bit.
I can see that. I don't agree just because like I like that they're talking about the restaurant Popeyes.
Yeah,
Uh,
well, so that's the thing is so basically Alina,
Yeah.
the episode is following one character as he may or may not be hallucinating. Um, and then it follows some other characters while they're trying to support a black restaurant, but the food isn't very good
Oh
and
yeah.
they just want to go across the street to have Popeyes.
Mhm.
Um, and so they I think like if those had been separate episodes, like if
mm,
Darius had gotten his own episode and then they did an episode like that, I think I would have liked it better, but it felt like because it was trying to do both at once, I think it wasn't as strong as the other send-offs.
Mm.
Uh,
Uh, I don't agree. I'm still kind of on the side of like I like that it's paralleling both because it also kind of leads into the again, spoiler alert, sorry.
Oh,
It kind of
go ahead.
I kind of felt that it's a really good lead into Darius stealing the car and saving his friends. And that way, that was just like, "Wait, you stole a car?" Like, and he goes like, "Well, it doesn't matter. I'm dreaming anyways, so who cares?" And that's kind of what I mean by like the ending is so condemning because if he is not hallucinating, if that is the reality, if he is breaking away from the dream, then he just committed grand theft. He's going to jail.
mhm.
So like, so I mean, unless they would have played a different situation for him to commit something like that, yeah, I see what you're getting at, but I don't know. I enjoyed that it's kind of like it's these two things kind of coming, kind of coming to a helm, and then by the end, it's Darius's decision to like embrace living in the dream, but also everyone telling him like, no, this is not a dream. um, these are this is reality. Um, anyways, God, now I want to rewatch it. Need to rewatch that show again. So good. Alina, what have you been watching? What's going on over there? I'm glad you liked it, Cal. Yeah, because I've been
Yeah.
wanting to talk to you about the show forever.
I have not been watching a lot recently, because I was. It's been Thanksgiving in Canada, so I've been
Oh,
visiting my family.
oh,
Uh,
kudos.
yeah, so I've seen a lot of children's television that I have
Cool,
a lot of
cool.
opinions on the state
Oh,
of
please,
children's TV.
What
share.
are the
Please
kids
share.
into these
Yeah,
days?
please
I
share. Please
mean,
share.
so it's mostly the like very baby kind of stuff because my nieces are 4 and 1.5, so
I
it's like
hope they're
all of
not
the goodies.
watching Paw Patrol.
Oh my, no, they're watching fucking nothing but, and it's the worst. And I'm like, my sister, you do know this is just indoctrinating your children. And she's like, I know, but they literally won't watch anything else. I'm like, this is a fucking cult. It's a problem. We need to talk about Paw Patrol and we need to like get the children off it.
Have I sent you the skip intro video about Paw Patrol?
Yeah, it's good. It's real good. And I said that to my sister too. But yeah, so her 4 year old
uh,
is obsessed with Paw Patrol, and that's like her hit of caffeine in the morning. Like she is so grumpy if she doesn't get some Paw Patrol. And so
Interesting.
my sister's just like completely surrendered to the inevitable now. But here is the main thing I noticed. Children's television has the worst theme songs right now, and it used to have fucking bangers. So most of the children's television show intros are something along the lines of whatever the name of the series is, repeat that, a very short sentence about one of the main characters, repeat the name of the show, and that's it. That's the entire theme song.
Hmm.
And I was like, what happened to people just fucking going off on children's television shows opening themes? They used to be fire. There were
Yeah,
some
like it
good
does.
ones,
I still have some of those on my iTunes just because they were that good.
right?
About the heroes in the half shell and their teens, and then a
Oh,
description of
yes.
each ninja. Or
Even Spirit Rangers, which I want to love so much, and the show itself is really well written and really good. But like a show about native superheroes, you had the option to do some really cool, like a Tribe Called Red hallucination, um, like techno powwow rock intro. And instead,
mhm.
the intro to Spirit Rangers is Spirit Rangers, let's go Spirit Rangers, Spirit Rangers, let's go Spirit Rangers, let's go Spirit Rangers, Spirit Rangers. That's the theme song. That's the entire theme song.
that doesn't sound great, but to be fair, we did. Well, I don't know how old. I don't know what's your age, but but I do remember growing up with Mighty Morphin Power Rangers,
Oh
and
yeah,
the
yeah.
theme song just
Go
being
Go
Go Go
Power
Power,
Rangers.
Rangers.
and that
First
was
of the
kind
really
of it.
repetitive kids theme songs though, because the ones previous to that in like the late mid to late 90s, and I know a lot of those were Disney, but they
Yeah.
had some banging intros.
Oh
Like
yeah. Oh yeah.
Gummy Bears did not need to go that hard, but it's a great
Yeah,
theme song.
it still slaps.
Well, it's
Still slaps.
also,
Dashing
at
and
least in
daring,
the case
courageous and
of Paw
caring. Yeah.
Patrol,
Mm-hmm.
they're 2-year-olds that they're
Yeah.
aimed at.
Yeah.
So they need a theme song a 2-year-old can remember,
Yep.
and sing along. So I understand the logic behind the
The really repetitive and
uh,
simple. I like to call
yes.
it the Baby Shark logic. Like,
Hmm.
I think when Baby Shark really went viral, people were like, "That's the new thing. Kids want a repetitive, easy to remember thing so that they can sing along, even if they're two. Let's do it." But if you are a parent and you have to deal with that 50 times a day, you will absolutely lose your mind. I caught my sister
Right.
humming Paw Patrol theme to herself while she was doing the dishes, and I'm like, "My
Oof.
sister, you need intervention." She's like, "I
I
fucking
mean, I
know."
haven't even seen Paw Patrol, and as soon as we brought it up, I was humming it because it is
Uh-huh.
mentioned in the skip intro video.
Uh-huh.
So I do know the lyrics to Paw Patrol because
They're very simple
it's
by design.
insidious.
My
Yeah.
friend Sam, who is also a cartoonist, you probably know Sam Logan, uh,
Mhm.
has never heard um, Baby Shark, the actual real version of Baby Shark.
Bless
And
him.
so I know, right? He lives a charmed life. And so at
Yeah.
one Comic Con, we would try and he was like trying to guess how Baby Shark went because he understood
Oh.
that it was his Baby Shark dot dot to do all over and over again. And so he would sing it to different songs. And my favorite was Baby Shark One Week by Bare Naked Ladies.
Baby shark,
Um,
shark, do 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 do.
Yeah, it was very good.
Okay.
uh, I remember, one time talking to Svay
Yep.
about Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood,
Oh yes.
and we both, because it's like it was airing on, like, Cartoon Network or Toonami or Adult Swim, they don't play the theme song, they just
Oh,
cut into it, and so,
oh, fascinating.
we were joking
Yeah.
about what the theme song was,
Huh.
which is, the joke theme song we came up with was Full Metal Alchemist, da 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 alchemy.
Good.
Which is not the theme song, and it has a very good theme song. It's
Yeah.
just, we were not exposed to it when it was first
Have
airing.
you seen the series of TikToks? It's these two. It's like a man and a woman. I think they're partners. And they're doing every anime intro ever, and it's just a video of like the different shots that you see in every single anime intro. So it's like the two of them running towards something,
Yeah.
somebody turning around dramatically, a shot of the bad guy doing something that will be a spoiler in a couple episodes.
Uh, the Mob Psycho opening slaps.
Oh, that's good. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Mob Psycho is just very fun generally.
Yes. Um, I have heard that the live action One Piece is really good.
So have I. That's on my to watch list.
Yeah, I think
Surprising everyone ever.
Yeah.
Um,
One of my friends is a
because
big One Piece fan and was like, "No, no, you do need to watch this because it is a really good way for new people to One Piece to get into the show because it basically is like the highlight reel of the first couple seasons."
mm.
I was like, "Well, that's cool."
um the anime kids really like One Piece, the anime kid
Mhm.
Discord I'm in.
Mhm.
And I am one
Oh,
of like two people that don't like One Piece. Um
you're admitting that on the air. Look at you.
I explained my reasoning and they were like, "All right, that checks out." And they
Yeah.
gave me to my they were like, "To your credit, you did get to the point where everyone says it starts to get good and you
And
still
so,
didn't like
not
it."
for you.
So,
Yeah, that's
it
fair.
yeah. When it quote unquote starts to get good is volume 19 of the manga.
Good. All
Ooh,
right.
boy.
Yeah, that's.
So I have read over 100 chapters of One Piece and still didn't like it. Um
Oof.
and um I was explaining, the way I put it is I was like, I One Piece needs a Kuwabara in my mind.
Yeah,
Um,
just little pirate twinks.
because
There's a good Bara in there.
Kuwabara in Yu Hakusho, um, the reason why he is a great addition to the cast is he is the character who has known the main character for forever.
Yep.
So they have a very different dynamic, and you see a different side of the main character when they
Mm.
interact compared to any of the other characters.
Mhm.
Um, and so One Piece, Luffy goes off sailing to become a pirate,
Yep.
and then the first several volumes are like Luffy goes to a place, he meets a person, they have an adventure together, and
Yep.
then that person joins Luffy's crew.
Yep.
Repeat this like 10 times, and then he has his main crew, but it's still like I felt like I wasn't learning anything new about Luffy because everyone is someone he just met.
Yes.
Um, so there wasn't a whole lot of contrast between um, how Luffy interacts with Zoro versus how he interacts with Sanji versus how he interacts with Nami. Um, and so I was like, so it's not necessarily that it's bad. It wasn't giving me what I wanted.
Mm. And for
Nobody
a
was
wacky
already
character like
friends.
that, yeah, you kind of need somebody to ground him.
Um, so while it does sound like the One Piece live action is very good, I probably might still not like it, just because um Luffy is still making friends with
Just
people,
Luffy. Yeah.
and there's no person who's been there with him the whole time.
I was very skeptical when I heard they were going to make it because I was like, of every anime, that is the one that you could least translate into live action because it's like a crazy stretchy pirate guy. It's like
It's
it sails on its weird cartoons.
also they can't even fucking make something like Fruit Basket a
Yeah.
good live action.
Yeah.
And
And that's just a K-pop. That's just a K-drama. Like you could just do that.
yeah,
Just do that formula.
so
I think I also
um
kind of remember hearing the comment of like the streaming service that is notorious for cutting for cutting seasons, for pulling things
for
off the air.
canceling stuff quickly, has
Yeah,
decided to adapt the longest ongoing narrative ever made.
That's
basically.
a problem.
I was like, but like, I don't know. Yeah, who knows? Maybe One Piece will be the thing that actually turns Netflix around and be like, we're going for the long shows now.
Okay.
So does that mean they're gonna make it for 20 years?
You know what? We don't know how long Netflix will be around.
Yeah, we really don't.
So, so you know what? Sure, Netflix, take the gamble.
We're
I
just
dare you.
now gonna start getting their actual numbers for viewership and
Yeah,
revenue, so we will see.
yeah, yeah. For all we know, maybe that is going to be like, oh man, this One Piece really is bringing the kids.
Hmm.
So,
Um the Speaking of long animes and mangas,
oh, my favorite topic.
uh Joe, have you read Pluto yet?
No, no, I haven't. Wait, when was the last time we spoke?
Couple of weeks ago.
Exactly, and you think that like that I've read Pluto ever since then? Like
You might have picked up the first volume.
it's I I really appreciate your faith in me. I really do. But like it's it might
Alina,
be.
have you read Pluto?
I have not.
You should also read Pluto. Both of you should read Pluto.
I do not disagree. I do not disagree with that statement. And yeah, it's definitely on the someday I'll get to it. It's just I am very intimidated by anything longer than 5 volumes. It's
Mm-hmm.
like
Mm-hmm.
just
It's
like oh man.
only It's only 8 volumes.
So you do know that 5 is shorter than 8.
I'm just saying, compared to One Piece.
That's
It's
true.
hardly
That's
anything.
true. That's true. That's true. But like I also kind of make it very clear of like I don't have a valid opinion on the quality of these things because like my cap really is just like oh it goes on for that long. Like like no I'm never gonna start watching Inuyasha or like I'm never gonna
Oh
read like any
man.
of these. Yeah,
Well,
because
okay,
it's just
That's
like
okay.
oh
I
If you watch 5
Mhm.
episodes of
You
Inuyasha,
have all the
you've
rest of the
got the
series.
whole thing. You've
I
got the whole thing.
loved Inuyasha when I was a teen. I just the concept of like this girl falls into feudal Japan, has to deal with demons. Loved it. Absolutely my jam. And I kept waiting for the series to kick off and for some
right
cool secrets to get
Here's
revealed. And then
here
it was just the same old thing forever.
here
I
is
was
the
so crushed.
extra
right
Alina, here's the extra infuriating thing.
Yeah.
oh boy
Yeah.
what did I just
If
open
they
I'm sorry
wanted if they wanted to go on forever,
Yeah.
they just say they have to collect all the shards of the Shikon jewel. They did not say how many shards there are. They could have just found those shards for fucking forever. But
Hmm.
instead, they had Naraku has all the shards, and then it turned into they fight Naraku all the time.
Forever.
Rather than like a monster, they had a very solid premise of a
Hmm.
monster of the week show. Like Ranma 1.5, because it is like an impossible MacGuffin, you get a goofy, fun martial art thing
And
that's
that's all it
different
needs to
every
be.
chapter.
Exactly. And that's all it needs to be.
And Inuyasha didn't need to be more than we go to this town, we look for the jewel,
Yeah.
there's a jewel piece. And like, because they added all the Naraku stuff, like,
Yeah.
that killed it.
And I wanted it to be good because I basically got into comics. So like I read Archie comics growing up, mostly like the
Hmm.
Archie main series, but then also Sonic the Hedgehog, because that was literally what I could buy at the corner store behind my grandma's house with like my allowance. So those were the
word
comics I had access to. And
yeah
then when I finally got old enough to like go further afield and go buy comics at the store, there was like this local comic shop and they mostly had Marvel DC, but they were all titty covers. And my grandma was not big on me having titty comics around the house. Like, even if it was just like
sure
a Superwoman book, it was still like, look at her tits.
Hmm.
So I got into manga because they had a really small manga section. And the covers were generally, some of them, of course, were very titty focused, but like Ranma Half often wasn't. And that was one of the
right
very, very, very first manga I read, and I was instantly hooked, probably because of all of the gender fuckery, which,
right
seems obvious in retrospect. But I loved that so much. I love that comic to pieces.
So, the way that I got into comics has sort of burnt into my mind how bad the comic shop system is.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Um, because the reason why I got into American comics specifically is because around the time the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies and the X-Men movies came out is when they launched the Ultimate Marvel line,
Oh, yeah, right.
and that was free to read online.
Right.
So I read the first like 100 issues of Ultimate Spider-Man,
Mm-hmm.
good lord
and then I read like the Ultimate X-Men that was out. And then when they stopped, I ordered a subscription to Ultimate X-Men to get it delivered to my house.
Oh, yeah.
Um, and I could never get into any other American comics because going to the comic shop was just such a fucking hassle.
Uh-huh.
right
They also kept me reading Ultimate X-Men much longer than I would have. Um, because since it was getting delivered into my house, it was more effort to stop my subscription
right
Right.
than to like
When it got real
that's
fucking weird.
that's how they get you.
Yep.
That's how they get you.
but that's not how they get most people. Most people are in that system of going to the comic shop every Wednesday
I mean,
and
and that's Part of the problem with the
These are
industry,
probably people
like,
with vehicles.
yeah,
Yes.
that's part of the problem with the industry is it's like, listen, the only people who are into comics are the people who are already into comics for the big three back in the day. It was
Yeah.
like, listen, do you read comics? Then you go to the comic book store and you make a special trip for it. But if you don't already do that, you will never find a comic
Um,
except in your newspaper.
and and then I got
Right.
into manga for reasons that make it very clear I was 13 at the time.
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
Because in gym class, one of my classmates had a volume of X 1999,
Mm-hmm.
and I
Right
opened it
on.
up and I was like, that woman just exploded. That is the coolest shit I have ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
And then I kept reading all of them.
Nice.
Until it was canceled.
Oh.
Because of it was too similar to a thing that happened in real life.
Mm,
Oh.
Yeah, in X 1999 there are the apocalypse is going to happen in the year 2000, so it's building up to the apocalypse, and there are 7 dragons of heaven and 7 dragons of earth, and there are key points in Tokyo that um the dragons need to fight over, um and whichever if the dragons of earth win, the end of the world happens because the dragons of earth actually represent like nature.
right.
So for humanity to survive, the dragons of heaven have to win.
Mm.
And all of these dragons, quote unquote, are just actually people with mystic powers that are like connected to this seal of fate or whatever.
Yeah.
And the main character, basically whatever side he picks, that's the side that's gonna win. So both sides are trying to like, hey, join our team.
Mm.
And whenever one of the dragons of earth wins, a giant earthquake happens and like
Ah,
wrecks the area that the fight took place in. So they had like a couple of dragons of earth win, and like they destroyed important landmarks in Tokyo. And then a real earthquake destroyed those
yeah.
landmarks, and they were
Yeah.
like, you can't make this manga anymore.
The likelihood of that happening was very high. It's like, oh no, an earthquake is important, destroyed something important in Japan. An island known
Because there
for
was
its
that
earthquakes.
big disaster earthquake, in 2007?
Six, seven.
Yeah, something
2006?
there.
I
Yeah.
think so.
Something
I
like
think
that.
so. I think so. Well, you may have to requote me on. You may have to double check me on
Anyway,
that.
you know that, like, that's around the time period that it got canceled, is the
Hmm.
long story short. But a lady does explode and give birth to a sword.
Oh, like you do.
Yeah.
How
Might have been.
how
It
else
might.
are you gonna give birth to a sword?
With a lot of hope or with a lot of questionable imagery.
How about your early comics, Joe?
Ah, geez. Well, for me, it was just more of like, okay, so taking into consideration that I grew up in Mexico,
Yeah, yeah.
our access to my main access to comics was the newspapers.
Right, yeah.
Uh, and every once in a while, like whether it was on the US on the American side, like I would see like some superhero floppies here and there, but I really wasn't that into them. They just looked nice and like, but I really wasn't that into superheroes, but like they look cool. But it wasn't until I think it was sixth grade that I made friends with this guy, and I don't know. He just really talked me into superhero comics.
Hmm.
And like he really nerded out on me. It's like I
Hmm.
remember specifically how it happened. It was a sleepover, and he was just like so enthusiastic, and he just showed me like Spider-Man comics that in just the way that he talked about him, it just kind of like it just really impressed me. So still wasn't into superheroes, but I think I really got like the oh, this is like these stories can keep going. This is more than just
Right.
comic strips. Like this is just like, oh, this can keep going. Um, but again, because there really wasn't that much accessible, like in terms of long form. It's I didn't really seek for it too much. But then I think I ended up in like bookstores, and I started finding like alternative comics that were a little bit more like slice of life. Things were a
Mm-hmm.
little bit more horror comics and things like that, and that started getting my interest a whole lot more. Um, and the other thing that happened was that here's a note for you. I went to a summer camp in Victoria Island, um, and I made it was a very lonely summer because I was the only I guess Western world kid in my summer camp. It was 20 Taiwanese kids, two Japanese kids, and me.
Huh.
So communication was not exactly
Yeah, yeah.
the brightest. Like it's my English wasn't great, and it was an ESL summer camp.
Mm.
So it's us, and again, like, and we're all like teenagers at the time. Anyways, but there was this one of the Japanese kid had a Dragon Ball volume, and I had never seen that before because I loved Dragon Ball. I grew, like Dragon Ball showed up in Mexico when I was like in the fourth grade.
Yeah.
Um, way before Dragon Ball Z. So just seeing like the comic form of Dragon Ball, I was like, what is this? This is so much. This is like, it finally clicked that of like, oh, someone is telling the cartoon thing that I know and like, and that it's serialized in like this ongoing series. Like, that's really cool. That really got me to like, oh my gosh, I need to look more into this. And then that's kind of how I started looking into like more mangas and started seeking out mangas. And at that point, like I think it was around like seventh and eighth grade, it was just very apparent that comics were there were a lot of avenues for comics. Like there
Mm-hmm.
were comic strips. I was falling in love with Calvin and Hobbes at the time. There were like the floppies, like the superhero stuff. But I was also finding out like the 8 Ball comics and like all these other indie comics and just like Ghost World comics and things like that.
Oh man, Ghost World.
So yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
I was finding those. There were floppies, yeah, it was like the comic singles, and I was also finding like I guess the trades, like the collectible ones. But I was just finding all these things, and then at the same time, like, oh, like those animes that I like, those have comics too. What the fuck is going on? Comics is the greatest thing ever. I
Yeah,
need to
yeah,
learn more
yeah.
about comics. Like, yeah, like I think that's kind of like, yeah, somewhere in middle school for all the not great things I have to say about myself in middle school. I think discovering comics and the world of like all the different things that comics can do and just like just how global they were was definitely something I was like, oh my gosh, I how do I hang out with more of this?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah, so like, and then like I also got obsessed with like a bunch of animes and things like that, and um, yeah, so
Cool.
yeah, it's
It's
that
funny you
that's
mentioned newspaper comics. 'Cause I also got really into those too, but I didn't really like think of them in the same way that I did like comics.
yeah,
Because like here in Canada, one of the syndicated comics was For Better or For Worse.
mm,
And it's just like slice of life, a lady talking about like being married and having kids and the like standard daily ins and outs. But like
yeah, that sounds
it,
like my jam.
yeah, it like had some continuity to it too. So
Mhm.
Yeah, that's
like
one of the few newspaper comics where they got older.
yeah, they got older and like the kids grew up and there was different pets that like, came and then died and then like they got a new one and
Yeah.
like it
Yeah,
was
it's funny that
just slice of life.
yeah, it's funny that you say that because like yeah, like when I was reading newspaper comics, like the biggest examples that come to mind are there was a syndicated comic in my local newspaper called Henry, which is a
Mm,
comic from like the 30s. And what I loved about it is that the main character never talked. But it was funny, it's a very typical, it's really not it's not a very impressive comic. I was just really impressed by like the main character not talking. And
Mhm.
it's your typical 4-panel gags,
Yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
know, all that and that
It's
stuff.
all newspaper
But
stuff. Like that's how it has to be.
right, that's how it has to be, and yeah, it became very clear because I was very young, 4, 5, 6, 7 years old. That it's like, oh yeah, like the method of the strip is that it's beginning, middle, and in 4 or 5 panels.
Hmm.
But then I remember very distinctly coming across the Phantom comic,
Oh.
and just I remember reading it and liking it, but also just being like, this isn't funny. Like, what's the joke? Like,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it just didn't make sense because it was like, what's like the story doesn't end, and then wouldn't you know it, following week, I pick it up and we're like, oh, the story continues.
Yeah. We
Oh,
never
that's
really
how
had a
they.
lot of that format in our papers, but like I would have been super into that. I think we
Yeah,
used to, but like
yeah. I
all
mean,
of
like,
the Dick Tracy and those kind of sequentials really weren't in the paper anymore by the time I was reading them.
yeah, yeah. No, you're absolutely right. I mean, like, look, the Phantom was a rarity.
Yeah.
Because yeah, because most of the strips were like, what's the name of the Viking with the red beard?
Oh, yeah.
Um,
Hagar the Horrible?
Haggard the Horrible.
Hagar the Horrible,
Yeah.
or Beetle Bailey, or like
Yeah.
it's yeah, Dennis the Menace.
Those were mostly in
Um,
ours too.
so like yeah, like the hits, they were the hits. But so yeah, no, it wasn't until like yeah, like the idea of a serialized strip, it was just like, wait, what is this? It
Hmm.
sounds very obvious, but when you're 5 or 6 and you're barely being exposed to the medium, it's like it's just fascinating to see like another alternative, or like another way of doing it. Um, so that's what really caught my attention. But like, yeah, and then and then I got grumpy and bitter, and my influences kind of changed,
Yeah.
and now I sound like a jerk at parties. It's because I don't read enough comics as much as I would like to. But
I hardly, yeah, I read less comics than you would think for somebody who's worked in comics this long.
Well,
yeah,
here's the
no,
thing:
that's
is everyone who makes comics is too busy making comics to
Yeah,
read
to actually
yeah,
comics.
read
that's that
comics.
yeah, that's
That's so
that's my
true.
defense. That's my defense. It's just like, well, if I
And
wasn't too
I got
busy making it.
pickier about what I would read. Like the stuff I read
Yeah.
mostly these days is a lot of the like autobio or like instructor comics. Like I'm going to talk about a subject and teach about it.
Oh, cool.
That's a lot
Oh,
Yeah.
of what interests me now. And just
Yeah.
weird zines. Like I love going to Van Calf and picking up a bunch of weird zines.
I hate autobio comics.
I know.
I love them.
But it's okay, Kel. We can still be friends. Um. So
Um,
I
I
mean,
yeah,
I'm
because
just
I read
like
certain kinds of
I
autobio
get it.
comics.
I am
Uh,
like I get enough of the real world. I want vampires. Give them to
Fair.
me.
There was a period in the 90s where autobio comic almost invariably, at least the ones that were being published, almost invariably were like sad white guy whines about his sex life. And I
oh yeah.
do not
Yep.
like those.
These vicious, cruel women won't
Yeah,
date me.
yeah. Uh, but like, what is it like being a single mom raising kids in Detroit? That's fucking
Oof.
fascinating.
Yeah. Word.
Let's read about that.
Yeah. I mean, like that's also like I just finished reading this book called In Limbo. By I believe they go by JoJo now,
Mhm.
but they are credited differently in the book cover. I believe that they are credited as Dev JJ. I can't remember their last name. I'm really sorry in case you're listening. You're awesome. We met at a panel once. But yeah, like it's basically the experience of being a Korean born, moved to the States at the age of 5,
Mm,
but now going through high school, kind of thing.
cool.
Which yeah, exactly. Which is just like yeah, this is totally my jam. Um, and yeah, like it's on a similar note of like yeah, like whenever I seek out comics, like yeah, I kind of lean a little more into like the coming of age, which is predominantly like middle grade stuff nowadays,
Yeah, yeah.
or the bizarrely surreal,
Hmm.
um, just like yeah, it's that's because again, like yeah, I also have to be like a little selective with like I have time to read, and I
Yeah.
want to read everything, but I need to pick. So what do I pick? And I'm like, well,
It's gotta really, really grab my attention.
yeah. So it's like, so, did you ever read The Best We Could Do?
No.
If you like the autobio stuff, I recommend that one. Kel, have you heard of this book?
No.
I'm gonna talk about it really quickly, just because again, like it's yes, it is the story of a Vietnamese second generation living in the US person, but the way that they tell the autobiography is basically like the entire history. Well, it's the contemporary history of Vietnam.
Oh wow.
So
Mhm.
it starts off with like with the revolutions that happened in the 40s, and
Yeah,
then
yeah.
what led into so many people having to, leave fled their country. So like even though she's telling her story of living in the US, she's also telling you the story of her parents having to go through the entire immigration process, coming to the US. And then it's really, really intensely tied to parenthood, and just how what's the word I'm looking for? I'm gonna use the word visceral it can
Mm.
be. Um, and yeah, it's very intense, but it's also really, really good. And also like visually, the entire book is in black and white, but with like this red wash. So
Oh,
whenever there's a
gorgeous.
lot of yeah, so whenever it's like red ink wash, which is it's monochrome, but whenever there's the topics of violence or maternity or and any kind of biological difficulties, it just has like an extra layer of gumph to it.
That's really cool.
Yeah, so like so yeah, I love that book. It's really good. And it's a thick one, but it's really good. And also yeah, like
Yeah.
it's fascinating to learn. And even the author has kind of spoken of like, whenever in the US there's any conversations about Vietnam, it usually kind of leads into like, well, you're probably going to hear the stories of American veterans and
Mm-hmm.
Americans who were there for the war, and
Mm-hmm.
not that that isn't valid, but what happens when that's the only perspective that you have?
Yeah, well, it's like
Um,
the very, very America-centric view of the
right.
Vietnam War, and it's like, okay, that's not the whole story though.
So I've been listening to Chip Zdarsky and Chris Butcher and Deb Oki and David Brothers' podcast Manga Explaining.
Hmm.
Cool.
And the idea is that they're trying to get people who don't read much manga to read more manga. Um, and one of the books that they recently went over is hold on. I'm trying to find the actual title because I don't want to get the place wrong,
Oh,
but
Mm.
sure.
it's one of the islands in Japan is mostly used as like a vacation destination.
Mm.
Um,
Is it like Okinawa?
and Okinawa, yes, that is
Oh,
it.
okay.
So the
The home of
whole
the home of Mr. Miyagi. Yeah.
Yeah.
so the whole story is about how the natives of Okinawa feel about the fact that
Yeah.
the rest of Japan only thinks about them as a vacation spot and
Uh-huh.
is
Mm.
totally okay with there being like a military base from
Yep.
the US there, and like and basically no one will do anything about it.
Hmm. And they get to be
Because
the
the rest of
exploited tourist destination, like many, many, many places held by indigenous people.
Yeah.
Hawaii.
I,
yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of parallels to Hawaii made. But yeah, so it's interesting because it's like multiple stories that are told out of order, some of which are like right after World War II, some of them are modern
mm,
day.
Mm.
Um, and it puts like a big holistic approach to like exploring this topic.
yeah.
Hmm.
Um,
Well, that sounds
I think
fascinating.
the reason why I bounce off autobio. It's not just the like, well, I got enough of the real world.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, it's because a lot of the time I feel like autobio gets used as an excuse to be inconclusive or like, well, that's how it really happened, so I'm not going to push a theme or an idea stronger. Like, so when stuff is about more mundane people, um, I want them to really dig into a topic, and I feel like autobio frequently, because it's the person's life, there's a lot of stuff that is everywhere, that is all over the place because that's how life happens.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm. Yeah, I
Um,
see that. I mean, for that, for a similar reason, that's kind of why. Like, have you heard of this graphic novel called "Be Prepared"?
yes.
Yeah,
I
like
have not. Yeah.
so it's
It's about going to camp.
Oh, okay.
well, yeah,
It's specifically like, is she Russian?
yes, Russian Orthodox.
Yeah, so it's Russian Orthodox camp.
Yeah,
Uh,
and to the point that Kel is saying, like yeah, I mean, it is very much based on Vera Broskol's real life, but she also points out that
Oh,
like
Vera.
when she
Cool.
would yeah, when she was growing up, she went to that camp for 2 years,
Hmm.
but this book only takes place in one trip. So she's obviously like combining different things and like pulling from
yeah,
like the
so I think I kind of prefer when it's fictionalized to some extent because you can like clean things up to make your point
To
clearer.
make your narrative
right.
sort of sing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah.
see that.
And so that is when I don't like it because it's not doing like story-wise what I want.
Hmm.
The other end is when it's really good and really intense, it makes me uncomfortable because I feel like I don't know this person. I feel like I shouldn't know this about them. Like,
Mm.
even though logically I know they wouldn't have put this out in the world if
Yeah,
they
they're
weren't
comfortable
okay
sharing
with
it.
strangers knowing it, I
Yeah.
feel like I'm violating their privacy anyway.
I
That's
Like,
mean,
that's
oof.
interesting because like
Yeah.
I think I go the opposite direction on that of like I think that's why I appreciate it more because
Yeah,
it is
same.
like it is kind of like
Uh,
someone telling me something about
Sage,
their life.
Sage, the creator of Wine Ghost, we're talking about autobio comics. I don't like them. Um,
I'm a big fan.
and
I do like them.
Joe and Alina both do like them. And
Yeah,
so, yeah, so basically to sum up what I was saying, is that I prefer when it's fictionalized to some extent because then they can push the themes harder and clean up the narrative more. Um, when it's fictionalized. Also, sometimes when it's really good auto bio, I feel awkward like I'm invading someone's privacy, even though a logical part of my brain
Mm.
understands that they put this out in the world. There's still a part of me that's like, I shouldn't know this about a stranger.
I mean, it was that was a lot of what made Ducks a really tough read because like
right,
knowing Kate Beaton, but then like also knowing that she's sharing those like really really intensely personal things, and knowing the
That's
context
why
of
I
like
haven't
it was
read
her
Ducks.
sister that passed, that a lot of this stuff is. It was a very very intense
Yeah,
read, but it made me so grateful that she was able to share it because I'm
right,
like I
that's
know what kind of emotional work this takes to engage with these subjects,
mhm.
especially for such a because like comics take for freaking ever to make, and it's like
right,
okay,
Yeah.
so you are choosing to relive some big pivotal moments between you and your now late sister. That's some freaking emotional labor. Holy shit. I am in
right.
awe. I am in awe of what you've done.
Yeah, so that's why I haven't read Ducks, and I probably never will because I'm like, I don't think I can read Ducks.
Yeah,
Um,
it's a lot, but it's also like, hey, do you want to know how fucked up Canada's extraction-based economy is? That's a
Right,
great place to start.
I do want to
It's real
know about
fucked.
that, but I would like it in a fictionalized narrative so I
Mm,
don't
right,
have to feel like I'm invading Kate's
somebody's privacy.
privacy.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, the thing is though is so the other end is to give an example of the other thing where I feel like they should have cleaned up this narrative is I read My Lesbian Experience with Loneliness
Oh
and
yeah,
My Solo Exchange Diary.
yeah,
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 I was
yeah.
gonna ask you about that. 'Cause
That was a
So
tough.
in my
That was a much
solo
tougher read than I thought.
My Solo Exchange Diary, I didn't like because it's all about, like, how her mom's shitty, and then in the middle of it, it's like, "I was the shitty one." And I was
Mhm.
like, "Okay." Like, I think I was frustrated with that, like, different train of thought, like, midway.
I kind of get that
Um,
because it was like you were inside her head when she realized that she is actually the being the shitty one. You're like, oh shit, this is. I'm realizing it kind of along with her in the narrative,
right.
um,
and it kind of puts you
eh,
inside her head more.
I also, I was not surprised by the end.
Hmm.
When she said how much she drinks, I was like, "That is a
Yes.
lot. You
Yep.
should not drink that much."
Hmm.
Um, and then she, was like, "Oh, I'm an alcoholic." And it's like, "Yeah, no shit."
Yeah, you sure are. Yeah.
And and I got really frustrated reading the book about her being an alcoholic because it's like, "Hey, did you know that alcoholism is a disease?" And I was like, "Yes, I did know."
Yes, correct.
I was really I found the My Alcoholic Escape kind of insufferable.
Mm. I haven't read that one.
Yeah, neither
Yeah,
have I.
and
It
I
might
don't know
just
that I
be because
will
both of
because
my parents are alcoholics, so I was like,
you're like, yeah,
I I
yeah.
already know all this.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Keep in
no
mind though, because
shit.
there's a cultural
Like,
context in that one where it's like, hey, this is maybe not a thing that's being talked about widely in Japan. Like it's like her first book,
yeah,
obviously, was like my
I
lesbian
understand
experience
that
with
it's
loneliness
important
is
for
a big,
Japan to hear that
yeah,
alcoholism is a disease, but as someone with two alcoholic parents, I was like, yeah, I know.
yeah, yeah. This sucks. Yeah,
Uh, but so yeah, I like things better when they're fictional.
I mean, I don't know if I have like a definitive hard line over the other of one over the other. But I will say that like comics does kind of have that additional category of like it is very common to see, memoirs in graphic form.
yeah,
Mhm.
More so than in other forms. Like, I mean, yeah, like there are memoirs, there are biographies, but like but for some reason, like the graphic novel form or like the graphic memoir is kind of very, you know, it's very common, and kind of to Kel's point, like I would be remiss if I were to say that like I do think that sometimes the graphic memoir does get a little bit more attention in by certain mediums than regular than fiction comics.
hmm,
Um, and like I
yeah,
know that there's a better argument about it, like because some graphic memoirs are just that good. But I think sometimes it just kind of feel like, well, it's very difficult to critique someone's life.
yeah.
Yeah.
I also think that the
Uh,
graphic novel memoirs get the most non-comics media
yeah,
buzz
yeah,
because they
that's
feel
what I
more
meant. Yeah.
serious than anything fictionalized. People are like, "Oh,
Yes.
we can't talk seriously about like fiction comics because that's just for
Right.
kids." But this seems to be
Yeah.
Well,
so much artier, and now we can actually have a discussion about it.
No, you're absolutely right about that, Lena. And like I mean, this is like verbatim from an NPR interview,
Yeah, yeah.
where someone was saying like, well, the thing about a graphic memoir is that from a PR perspective, the author is the character.
Yeah.
So
so it's
it's just
easier to market.
so it's easier to market. Well, and not just easier to market, but it's also just more of like for anyone softballing questions of like, how did you come up with this story? It's like, well, you didn't. This happened to you.
Yeah,
So it is just
exactly.
more of like, so like from a PR perspective, it's just easier to like whenever covering a graphic
Sage
memoir.
is, in my chat saying, "They're prestige," and putting
Right.
pictures of cats wearing sunglasses.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
Um,
I mean,
precisely.
like,
Yeah,
and yeah, I mean, like, and obviously, like, I wish that there was more attention to fiction comics the way that there is, the way that nonfiction is given,
yeah.
for sure. But no, you're absolutely right, Lena. And yeah, I do think that, like, again, verbatim, like, an NPR person talking about that was like, yeah, I mean, once you have the author right there,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's like, oh yeah, instead of talking about like, how did you come up with this character, or like, who are these people, where do they come from? Like those questions are already answered because it's real life kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
But yeah, so it's but I also kind of hear where Kel's
And
coming
also,
from.
like so, like, I use the Okinawa manga as an example because, like, it got to me all the, um examples of, like, the things that people get out of autobio, but, like, could be stronger with their message 'cause they could all thematically tie together,
Mm,
um, and it could jump around 2 different, like, time periods and settings more, um, and then, there's so I just felt like the messaging was stronger because it was fiction,
mm.
um,
I
even
mean,
though it's
here's
obviously fiction based off,
real
um,
events.
people's
Yeah,
experiences, um,
that's
and then I also think about, like, so the guy who made Pluto also made a manga called Monster, and it is about a doctor who saved a little boy's life, and then the little boy grows up to be a serial killer.
right.
Mm,
So the doctor feels he's responsible because he saved this person as a kid. He's basically grappling with the trolley problem.
Yeah.
And as he learns more about the kid that he saved, it gets into really deep into the politics of the reunification of East and West Germany, but
Oh,
also this strip of land on the Czechoslovakian and German border that, like, was argued over the entire, like, from the from the end of World War One to the reunification of Germany.
mm,
right.
Like, it was part of Germany, and then after World War One, it got put into Czechoslovakia, and then Czechoslovakia, most of the people that lived in that land were German, but now they're Czechoslovakian citizens, and the government was very shitty to that area because they were Germans,
Mm-hmm.
and so when Hitler wanted this piece of land back, the people that lived there, for the most part, were pro that Germany taking the land back. Though, obviously, some of them, they had been there for a while, now thought of themselves as part of, Czechoslovakia,
Mm-hmm.
right.
um, and then after World War II, during the Cold War, those people were all treated with suspicion because they were pro-Hitler, and
Yep.
not necessarily for Nazi reasons, but for German reasons.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, so he's going in so he's talking about all the politics with that, and also talking about how that ties into weird eugenics stuff that people believed,
Mm-hmm.
and experiments that went on, and it's all through a fictional serial killer.
Right.
And if it was autobio or just a biography, I feel like it would be very hard to find a person who is tied to all those things
Mm-hmm.
at once.
Yeah.
I hear ya.
Uh,
That's interesting.
Have
So
you ever?
like, I think my
Go
uh,
first experience with like really serious comics like was probably picking up Mouse, which was
Mm,
like
mhm.
I don't remember who recommended that I read that, but I probably was like I was pretty young when I read it, and I was
Oh,
not prepared for like.
we were
Mhm.
assigned that in school.
Oh really? Oh awesome.
yeah,
Uh,
We definitely were not. It was something I picked up on my own, and it like blew my mind because I was like,
Kel,
I
did you
didn't
mean
know
college?
comics could be this serious.
no, I read it in high school. It was
Oh,
assigned in
nice.
high school.
Cool.
Oh, that's so cool.
That's awesome.
I
Yeah.
think it was because my English teacher was just told that he has to pick a book about the Holocaust,
Right, and he's like, let's do this one.
and he
They'll
picked
like the
Mouse.
pictures. Yeah.
Oh, great pick.
Um,
Have any of y'all ever heard of a book called No One Else?
No.
no.
I highly recommend it. It's a graphic novel by Hawaiian artist Kiku
Hmm.
Johnson, I'm sorry.
Mhm,
Um, and it's fictional.
Hmm.
But like Kiku Johnson has made technically three graphic novels, but like I think he only claims two of them. One is called Night Fisher, which is very slice of life, beautifully
Hmm.
illustrated, all black and white, amazing. Um, but it's like the story of this high schooler in Hawaii, and he gets mixed up with like someone doing crystal meth. Anyways, No One Else is a completely different type of story because like I'm not even sure how to like give you a summary of what the story is. Like it's about this woman who's a nurse who her dad lives with her, and she also is a single mom. Um, and then her estranged brother comes back into town, and they're just trying to make life work. But what really makes the comic so amazing is that everything that is going on in the background is everything that is happening with the sugar plantations over in Hawaii, what is going on with their medical system, and also just like how the son is repeating a lot of behaviors that his dad used to have, who used to do unto him.
Hmm.
um, and just kind of like again, just visually kind of giving you that, yeah, just visually giving you that vicious cycle
Hmm.
that remains. It's really good, and also it's told in this very interesting way where it's like it's a very short book, short physically, because it's like half sized elongated, and all the pages are like six panel grids, like vertical six panel grids.
mhm.
And the reason why it's made that way is because while he was writing it, he was able to like switch panels around in order to make the story flow at its best pace possible. Um, I love it. It's very good. It's a and it's not a very long read. I think that that's also like another reason why I gravitate to graphic novels specifically, or like to both the American and the European side of things a lot more, is because they're very short,
Hmm.
um, in comparison to like volumes of like a very long graphic novel by European standards is 300 pages. That is like two volumes of a manga. Like that is
Yeah,
that's barely the
that's a
character's
short one.
introduction.
Exactly.
Yeah, like yeah, so like and like it's as someone who prefers like stories that have a beginning, middle, end, or like stories that have like a wrap kind of thing. Again, no disrespect to all manga out there because there's amazing ones out there. We just talked about Pluto and how it's only 8 volumes, but like, yeah, it's 8 volumes.
Yeah,
so,
and
so
that's a lot of investment of time.
yeah, it's whereas in I don't know, it's have you heard of this book called The Heart of Tomorrow? It's like 170 pages or something like that. It's like
Hmm.
it goes by. It goes by. I don't know how many pages The Heart of Tomorrow is. It's very good. It's short. Uh, but but yeah, I also wish I could dedicate more time to actually read Pluto because I hear it's very good.
Just also
Its anime
so many
launches in
comics.
2 weeks.
Really?
Oh,
Yes,
through what?
Netflix is gonna put it out.
Of
Got
course.
it. All right.
Netflix did a whole drive of like, maybe let's get some animes. Let's do some
Yeah, I guess
animes
the
now.
once the Death Note made was a hit.
Yeah.
I mean, look, kudos to Netflix for like really going after comic stuff. I mean, they went for the Sandman, they've
And
gone
then
for
and
Mm-hmm.
One
then they
Piece,
canceled them all.
and then they
Yeah,
canceled them all.
because they're probably not making any money, really. We don't know. We haven't seen the numbers
We
yet.
don't know. We don't
We
know.
will
Yeah, we
soon.
don't know. We don't know. For all we know, they're making a lot of money that they don't want to share.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And they
so yeah,
um
definitely don't want to share with the actors or the writers.
right.
Alina, I told you about the Sage is saying also it's easier to license and not be against the strike if it's an international work.
That is true.
Um
Very true.
um
And they've seen the strike coming,
Alina,
so they could make those decisions like a year ago.
I think well, I think it's also this is just a thing that I heard like a few years ago about Netflix is that Netflix was cooling it on American programming because all the Americans already had Netflix.
Right.
So they were trying to like focus on India and China and places where not everyone already had Netflix.
Oh, is that why they got there was so much
Mm-hmm.
K-drama on there for a while, which I am not
Yep.
complaining about because I fucking love it.
Well, with
Yeah.
K-drama, those were just they were the distributor uh for um they um they were just the distributor for those, so they didn't
Okay,
make
gotcha.
most of them. They
Yeah.
did make some of the ones based off webtoons.
Yes.
Like they made Love and Leashes, which is a very cute movie.
I saw
If you
that. It
haven't
was
watched it
great.
yet.
It's real fun.
Yeah. But yeah, so K-drama was easy to grab because like there aren't English distributors for it, so they could really
Right.
corner the market there. But like them being them getting like Chinese programming and also
A lot of Indian
what was that
programming.
Indian movie RRR
RRR?
or so,
Yes.
yes.
Did you ever see
Great,
that
So
movie?
great watch,
I
by the
haven't seen it
way.
yet.
Oh
Oh
my
God,
God.
Uh
so good.
Make the time if you ever
Yeah,
can, because
it's a
that's
lot. I love that movie.
it's a
I
lot.
have recently turned my Netflix back on, so I'll get to it.
Some
Yeah.
banger
So
songs too.
it's wild.
Damn.
Um So yeah, and it's also they were also I've heard we're trying to reach for South American content
Yeah.
because then they could have a bunch of countries that all speak Spanish get new programming all at once.
Hmm.
So they were kind of lumping them all together. Um
I mean,
but
that's
yeah,
what
so
America does. So
yeah. Well, this is like as far as Netflix is
yeah, yeah,
concerned.
yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for
So
thanks for critiquing my joke.
So, yeah, so it was basically like I heard that they were making that move a few years ago because like the lady that they recently made CEO of Netflix, like she was the most recent CEO announcement. Her job beforehand was international programming,
Oh, really?
so it was kind of people saw her getting promoted to being in charge of everything as a
And we're like,
sign that they wanted to push more international programming.
right.
Um, but yeah, Sage is saying that they knew the strike was coming hard. A
Yeah,
lot of
they
the
did.
One
Yeah.
Piece promo was made before the strike started.
Yeah.
Um,
Because they were like, let's see if we can get ahead of this thing.
yeah. But yeah, and then since Pluto's animated, that also is another thing that they don't have to worry about.
Fun fact, because of the strike and specifically Netflix being like, we know a strike is coming and we're not going to make any deals with anything. the sci-fi I was in the writers' room for has been in limbo for some time, and we are not
Ooh,
sure what will happen to it. So
ooh,
Oof, I'm sorry.
let's
I'm
see what's gonna
sorry.
happen. Maybe. Maybe.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah,
The
maybe
best.
we'll get some
We're
nibbles.
hoping for the best.
Thank you.
Um,
But yeah, I'm glad that
but also
writers are on set though, because they fucking
a
needed to.
lot, um, a lot of the animes that Netflix picked up they're not Netflix made. They're just
Yes.
Netflix distributed.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
I
Netflix,
think
start making your own
probably.
animes.
Yep.
I mean, they're doing that with Castlevania, to mixed success.
Was the Dragon Age one? Was that Netflix?
No, it's Dragon Age.
I
They did the
don't
Dragon Age
remember.
cartoon, and it was really good. You should watch it if you haven't seen it, and if you're a fan of Dragon Age. But I can't remember what network that was on.
I know it was on Netflix, I just don't know if Netflix made it because it's stuff like
Yeah,
BoJack Horseman is technically Netflix exclusive, but it is not a Netflix made animation.
yeah.
Um,
Mm,
which I would love DVDs of BoJack Horseman.
Mm-hmm.
I know I'm never getting them, but I would love them.
I want some Stephen
yeah,
King.
it's on that. Yeah, it's a Dragon Age Absolution on
Yeah, that's the
Netflix.
one.
Yeah,
Yeah, Sage is telling me Netflix didn't have in-house animation until fairly recently.
and then
Interesting.
they got rid of it.
Yeah,
Eh,
like just
they got rid of
completely
it.
nuked that entire
Just
department.
yeah, like because I remember like that was like a really hot topic somewhere
Oh
like
God, yeah.
2017, 2018. That's when like some of the Disney people were like freaking out because like Netflix were just like taking everybody,
Yep.
just like just
In the animation industry, everyone was like, Netflix is the place to be. That's definitely
yeah,
it. And then, oh boy, that didn't go well for anybody.
bad fucking crash so fucking hard. Like I
Yep.
remember because I used to go to the Netflix offices because that's where we were doing life drawing.
Oh, cool.
Um, yeah, and yeah, like it's just showing up. Like I'll never forget this. We showed up at like one of their common areas, and there was just like this giant wall of every time that someone got hired. Of course, they had to do their own N.
Oh.
So it's just like this wall of ends. And I'm like, oh my. So
Wow.
this is both impressive and a little creepy, but also
Mm-hmm.
very impressive. Because you know a lot of them
Uh,
are really fun, but it's also a lot.
Sage is in my chat with answers about the Dragon Age cartoon.
Thank you,
Great.
Dragon
Sage.
Age anime was animated and produced by Dog Culture,
Right.
so not Netflix.
Not Netflix. Cool. Oh, no, so it's just acquired by them. Is Red Dog one of the Canadian ones?
Don't know.
It
Well,
sounds
let's
familiar.
find
I might
out.
be thinking of Red House, though. Red House is the animation studio in Saskatoon, which is where I'm from.
Red Dog Culture House.
And then, of course, Titmos is here in Vancouver. So I know a lot of folks who work there.
They're also here in LA.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm looking up Red Dog Culture House.
Man,
Do,
I'm gonna draw a
skip
lot of logs. There's so many logs in this panel, y'all.
Tell me about. They're probably Korean because they said here's our webtoons.
Mm-hmm.
And Webtoon
Uh,
started as a Korean company.
South Korean right there.
Ah,
Yeah.
Based in South Korea, Red Dog Culture House is a rising 2D animation studio known for its bold direction and diverse animation styles spanning from anime to Western cartoons.
Okay.
So yeah,
Cool. Cool.
I need to see what a
I like
lovely
that
log.
all their icons on their website are little dogs.
yeah.
I like theming like
Um.
that.
No, Sage, it's fine. We appreciate this
No,
information.
we love it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Production companies and distribution houses are not exclusive to each other. For example, even back in the day, not all Cartoon Network series were produced by Cartoon Network. So yeah.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah. That's the difference between yeah, just well, like you were saying earlier.
yeah.
Oh.
Uh,
It's like
Of lumber.
you can. That's one of the things that I remember learning very, very quick here in LA of like, oh yeah, just because you make a movie doesn't mean that you can distribute the movie.
Yeah,
Those are two
yeah.
those are two
It's
very
a
different
different
things.
thing.
So it's like so then just learning of like, oh, you made a movie, that's really cool. Where can I see it? Nowhere.
Nowhere.
It's nowhere. It's didn't get distribution and we ran out of funding. Like,
On
oh
Hmm.
YouTube.
That shit happens all the time.
yeah, so it's I mean that's one of the Disney tricks at the time was just like, yeah, yeah, but they were their own distributor. That's why they had Buena Vista
Yep.
distribution.
Yep.
So that is what they call vertical anyways.
Uh-huh. I mean, it was part of the reason I did my story in Indigenous Marriage about working on that sci-fi because I was like, there's a good chance that this is not going to go anywhere because it's just how this industry works. So
hmm
at least now I'm going to get some mileage out of my time working on the show. I'll turn it
you
into the
also got
story.
paid, so that's
Yeah,
good.
exactly. I like that.
that is the most important part.
Listen, kids, if you can get paid twice for a project, do it. I got paid to work on the thing, and then I
Um,
turned it into a comic, and I got paid again.
if Grace can't have you on the Star Trek podcast during the Indigenous crowd
Oh, I
fund,
would go on afterwards just to talk about Star Trek.
yeah, I was gonna say maybe you should go on in July to
Oh yeah,
promote its release
yeah,
in stores.
I'd do that. That gives me more time to catch up on Voyager because I want to make sure I'm fresh on my Voyager facts.
Alina, do you have a favorite Star Trek?
I mean, it depends on what you mean. My favorite Star Trek will always be Star Trek Next Gen because that's what I grew up on. That was my shit. That was the good shit.
hmm
But like, I it's hard to go back and rewatch.
Mm,
It's not. It's a little rough. If I'm going back to rewatch anything, it'll be DS9. DS9 is still a really
DS9.
fun watch. It's good. I also just getting into Strange New Worlds. Real fun. Love that. Uh, I could talk for hours about Picard. It wasn't great, but like it's a thing.
No, I get it. I get it.
Yeah.
It's yeah, like it's the level, the impact of influence is
Listen, I could just
irrationality.
Patrick Stewart's voice is
Yeah,
like
yeah.
it's
My
just a
mom loved
thing.
my mom loved New Generation. And it was specifically because of Picard.
Yeah.
Um,
Uh, my favorite's DS9.
yeah.
DS9's real fun. That DS9 always a good rewatch. Like you're gonna have a fun time watching that one.
Um, the
I gotta get
newest
into Lower
episode of
Decks.
Lower Decks, is they go to Ferenginar to like write tourist travel books.
Good. I had heard
And
there was a recent episode. Oh, go ahead.
one of the characters ends up just watching Ferengi TV, and one of
Good.
the TV shows is Landlord Cops.
Oh my, that sounds horrible.
Hell yes.
Because of
That's such a
course
good
the
show.
Ferengi would love cop landlords.
Oh
Oh
my
God,
gosh,
would they
that
ever? That's the best.
sounds like my nightmare.
I had heard that there was a
Um,
recent episode where there was three Beta Z ladies that
yes,
everyone who was an animator on it called the Sexy MILFs show. They're like, this is the Sexy
yes,
MILFs episode.
that's true. That's
Yeah,
exactly what it was.
good. I do want
I'm
to watch
caught up
that.
on Lower Decks. It has been a fun time. They go to the planet Orion for the first time.
Oh,
Um, so we get to actually learn what life is like on planet Orion.
good,
Um, it's all sexy times all the time.
good. Bow,
It's
bow,
also
bow, bow.
funny because since it was established in Enterprise that the Orions are actually a matriarchy, they
Yeah,
introduced Tendy's mom, and she's like, Lady of the blah blah blah, like it's a super long title. And then this is her husband, Chet.
good. Chet is also
A lot
cute.
of lot of just Ken energy.
It's like in the Disney's Alice in Wonderland with the Queen of Hearts and the King.
And the king is here as well. This is. I'm really happy with my layout on this page.
Yeah,
Good.
We're
cool.
introducing the character that it saves the main character from being lost out in the woods, and he's this like old trapper guy. So we're doing flashbacks about his life, and I had to do a deep dive of a bunch of historical photos to find like specifically like where did he work, what was the ship he came in on, what did he look like. So this is like just me. Tonight's stream has been basically just me like going and choosing parts of historical photos to reference for all the panels. But there's a big figure of him looming over all of these historical shots because it's all about him.
Um, Now I'm just thinking about Moopsy and Lower Decks.
I've seen the designs for Moopsy, and Moopsy is so freaking cute.
Moopsy has my heart
And the heart of the
and
internet.
my bones.
And your
That's
bones.
Yeah,
I
it
put
would
that
have your
joke in
bones.
my newsletter. Moopsy has my heart and my bones.
Good.
I was talking to Hi about a Moopsy tattoo. Like, and it was like, so what you do is you put it on your ankle, and the part of your ankle that is less bony, you put the cute Moopsy. And then
Yes.
on your outer ankle where it's more bony, you put Moopsy with its big open mouth. Um,
Good.
and maybe you put like rolling Moopsy in between. Um, Moopsy. Also, Hi's Halloween icon is Borg Moopsy.
Oh, good.
Org?
Yeah, Borgs are like the robot people that want to grab you and turn you into like a cyborg robot person too.
Yeah.
I see.
Uh,
You will
if
be
you've heard
assimilated.
resistance is futile, that's what they say.
Yeah. Borg and Picard sure were a thing. But yeah. I have seen Moopsy designs. I am a fan of Moopsy designs.
There you go, Joe. There's Picard as a Borg.
I see.
Uh,
Cool,
and
cool
they
outfit.
they assimilate everything
Yeah.
to add its knowledge and experience to their own. So they would assimilate a Moopsy.
Oh yeah.
And then
And
they
then they
would
would be
be
better at
able
eating
to suck
bones.
your bones out.
Yeah. That's one of the things. Okay, this is a complete non sequitur, but like, the Octavia Butler series where there's a group of aliens who come to Earth to like assimilate everyone with their to take their genetic distinctness for their own. I was like, man,
Mhm.
these are just like genetic engineer Borg. They're gonna come and they're gonna like assimilate all of the Earth culture. And they never really addressed that in the novel. But also, it's like, well, yes, but humanity was like in the middle of killing itself through nuclear war, so maybe they were saving us from
Hmm.
ourselves.
There Okay, so the guy who made Yu Yu Hakusho, after Yu Yu Hakusho, made a manga called Level E,
Mm-hmm.
which is full of just weird ass shit.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I feel like it was just, this is where I'm gonna dump my weird ideas that don't have a place.
Good.
Because the plot is that like an alien prince becomes the roommate of a college student, but
Good.
really it's like that is a flimsy excuse to like um have just weird ideas expressed.
Mm-hmm.
one of such weird idea is there is a race that is all female,
Mm-hmm.
and the way they continue their species is they are also assimilating other species' DNA into their own.
Oh,
But because they can only be female, whatever species they decide to assimilate ends up going extinct because there's only females.
Right.
Like, because they end up being more fertile than regular females of that species.
Uh,
So, so the
will
plot
eventually
is that
outcompete.
these aliens are looking for a new place to set up to continue their species. So their queen is going to show up on Earth and like pick a guy and sort of transform herself into his perfect woman so she can bear his child and then start this process that will eventually lead to humanity's extinction in like 5 generations. And the dude that she ends up falling for is a trans man, and that is how the world is saved.
Nice.
hooray!
Good. Trans folks saving the world.
Yeah.
Um, but it's still like that is a very bizarre idea.
Mm-hmm.
Like to start with. That this
That's neat.
alien race assimilating
It's
humans
not where I thought
like
a manga about harem aliens was gonna go. So I give him props
yeah,
for that.
like well, that's the thing is it's a one-shot vignette in this greater series. So this is just him like putting his weird idea out forward. Um and the whole series is like that. It's just like so it's like I don't know if this is good. It's just weird.
It's a thing though. It's definitely there.
Yeah. And then he went on to make Hunter x Hunter.
Good.
Which is weird, but in a way that like is organized and makes sense. Like it
Yeah.
is like self-contained weirdness. Speaking of weird stuff in manga, the hot
Oh,
new thing is Dan to Dan.
Oh, I haven't heard that one.
no idea.
Um it is about the main guy believes in aliens and the
Yep.
main girl believes in ghosts, and
Cool.
when they meet, um they're both like that's stupid, your thing doesn't exist, and set out to prove that the other person's thing doesn't exist. So the guy goes to
Good.
investigate a ghost thing, and the girl goes to investigate an alien thing. Both
Good.
exist.
Yep.
Great.
Good.
Um, and the dude is immediately has his dick stolen by a ghost.
Not where I thought it was going.
Which is
And
a thing that happens.
the first arc is about getting his dick back.
Is that a metaphor?
Maybe? But the thing is he
Maybe.
gets his dick back,
But just it's
and
hidden.
then the arc ends with him going to the bathroom and looking down and saying, "My balls are gone."
Oh
Oh
boy.
God.
So
Oh man.
the second arc is about retrieving his balls.
Okay. Can't win.
It's ve-
Can't win with
it
ghosts.
it's very weird.
Yeah.
Um here are some pages.
Okay. Almost done this wood shop. Those are some phrases that are in a comic. My goodness.
Yes.
I don't think I've
Oh
read
my.
gobble your schlong in a manga before.
Now you have.
Wow. Well,
Yeah, the imagery in this is very specific, man. But also look at that inking. Wow. Graphic. This is very graphic. Oh my. Well, on that note,
well,
I'm gonna.
Yeah.
Yes,
This is a
let's.
good time to end.
Yeah,
Thanks
let's end
that's.
on
folks
a high
for
note.
stopping by.
Yeah, let's.
We're
We have to
gonna
go to.
end on ghosts stealing guys' dicks and saying I'll gobble your schlong.
Yep.
You can join us next week for more streaming and comic talk.
Yeah.
So later.
All
Thanks
right,
for
have a good
joining us.
one.
Where can you find us?
I'm at kelmcdonald.com.
Cool, Joe.
Oh, you can find me either I'm on Twitter, I'm on Blue Sky, but my website is josepimienta.com.
Rad. And I am online at alenapete.com or at weargeek.com. Talk to y'all later.
Talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye.